She's not begging for love anymore. She's not waiting for his message, his awakening, or his return. Something sacred has shifted within her, and this shift is louder than words. It's not anger, it's not indifference, it's power. It's the moment when the divine feminine finally chooses herself over the illusion of waiting. Have you felt it too? That quiet moment when you just stop. Not because you gave up, but because your soul whispered, "It's time." This is the moment that changes everything in the twin flame journey. And if you're here watching this video, it's not a coincidence. It's your sign. Comment below if you felt this shift too. We need to speak it out loud. Let's begin. There comes a moment in the twin flame journey that isn't loud. It doesn't come with tears or with a dramatic goodbye. It comes quietly, almost invisibly. But once it arrives, everything changes. It's the moment when the feminine stops waiting. Not out of bitterness, not because she's given up on love, but because something inside her finally awakens to a deeper truth that she is whole now, that her energy is sacred and it was never meant to be held hostage by someday. She has spent lifetimes holding space, carrying emotional weight, waiting patiently while the masculine runs, resists, hides, or disconnects. She's tried to heal him, fix him, call him back with her light. But what happens when the feminine finally realizes her light was always meant to guide herself first? This is not about walking away from the masculine. It's about walking towards herself. And that shift, that magnetic return to her own center, is the most powerful thing she can ever do. Have you ever felt that switch? That moment when your energy no longer chases, but simply is. The feminine is no longer available for connections that dishonor her truth. She's no longer entertained by promises that aren't followed by presence. This is not rejection. This is sacred reclamation. And ironically, it is this very shift that reconfigures the entire dynamic between her and the masculine. Because once she returns to herself, everything around her starts to change, including him, ready to dive deeper. So, why the feminine gets tired? There's a kind of exhaustion the divine feminine knows intimately, but rarely puts into words. It's not just physical tiredness. It's a soul-level fatigue that comes from carrying the emotional weight of the connection, the spiritual responsibility of holding space, and the constant, invisible labor of hope. She doesn't get tired because she's weak. She gets tired because she's been wrong for too long, often in silence. She's the one who feels the connection first, deeper, and more fully. She's the one who senses the spiritual contract, who dreams of him before he even remembers her name. She opens her heart with no map, no guarantees, just the knowing, and she waits. But over time, that weight becomes heavy. Not because she doesn't believe anymore, but because she starts realizing how much of herself she's been pouring out without receiving anything in return. Her messages go unanswered. Her presence is felt but unacknowledged. Her energy is absorbed, yet the masculine often stays silent, distant, unavailable. How many times can she send love without hearing it echoed back? How many times can she hold on to hope when all she receives is confusion, resistance, or avoidance? The feminine gets tired because she's constantly trying to balance her divine mission with her very human heart. She knows this journey is sacred, but she's also learning to honor her own worth, not just as a soul, but as a woman who deserves to be seen, met, and valued in the now, not in some distant timeline that never seems to arrive. She gets tired because she starts to see the patterns, the breadcrumbs, the emotional crumbs, the almosts. And deep down, she knows that waiting for the masculine to choose her is not the same as choosing herself. This fatigue is a sacred signal. It's not a sign of failure. It's a sign of awakening. It marks the threshold where the feminine begins to shift, where she stops trying to prove her love and starts anchoring into her power. It's the moment when she realizes that her energy is a temple and not everyone is ready to enter. She may still love him. She may still hold the vision, but she's no longer willing to abandon herself in the name of that vision. She understands now the soul connection was never meant to come at the cost of her own wholeness. And it's in this moment, this quiet inner breaking, that she finally remembers what she's made of. Something powerful happens when the divine feminine stops waiting. The entire dynamic between her and the masculine begins to shift, not just in the 3D, but energetically at the soul level. What once felt like a silent chase suddenly becomes stillness. What once pulled her outward now draws her inward. And in that turning point, the balance of energy between them transforms. When the feminine was waiting, holding space, hoping, yearning, her energy was in a state of forward motion. Like a current flowing toward the masculine, trying to awaken him, reach him, remind him. She gave and gave, sometimes without even realizing how much of her own light she was extending outward. This energetic offering was full of love, but it also came with a deep, unconscious longing to be met, seen, and chosen. But when she chooses to stop waiting, something radical happens. That current reverses. Her energy, once reaching out, begins to return home. She anchors back into herself. She reclaims her sacred space. She no longer sends signals of, "I'm here, come find me." Instead, her entire frequency shifts to, "I am here, with or without you." And this is where the masculine begins to feel it. For so long, he was bathed in her light. Even in silence, even through distance, her love was a blanket around his soul. It gave him comfort, even if he wasn't ready to face it. But now, that light starts pulling back, not in anger, not in punishment, but in sovereignty. It's a clean shift. No blame, no guilt, just truth. And that truth echoes in the masculine's field in a way he can't ignore. He may not know how to articulate it, but suddenly something feels different. The safety net is gone. The emotional cord he didn't know he depended on feels quieter. The noise inside him grows louder. The distractions stop working. The feminine's absence becomes more powerful than her presence ever was. Not because she disappeared, but because she returned fully to herself. This is the magnetic switch. And it's not about games or power dynamics. It's about energetic truth. The moment the feminine releases the need to be chosen, she becomes the embodiment of love without conditions. And ironically, that's when the masculine begins to feel the weight of the connection more intensely than ever. Have you ever noticed how, when you stop chasing something, it starts to come toward you? This energetic shift isn't just personal, it's alchemical. It begins rewriting the dynamic at the soul level. The feminine no longer holds the weight of the connection alone. Her return to self creates a vacuum, and energy always seeks balance. The masculine, now unshielded from his own emotional landscape, is pushed to feel, to awaken, to question. He may resist at first. He may try to cling to old patterns. But the shift has already begun. And once energy moves in this way, it doesn't go back. Does the masculine feel her letting go? He may not say it. He may not understand it. But yes, the masculine absolutely feels it when the feminine lets go. Not just in the physical sense, not just through silence or absence, but at the energetic level, where twin flames are always connected. When she holds on, he feels it, the pull, the longing, the unwavering presence. Even if he's far, even if there's no contact, there's a silent comfort he receives from knowing that she's still there. her love, her patience, her energy. It wraps around him like a soft light, often going unnoticed until it's gone. But when she finally lets go, really lets go, that light shifts. It's not cold, it's not rejection, it's something more sacred. It's her return to herself. And though he may not be able to name what's happening, he feels the emptiness where her energy used to fill the space. You might wonder, does he even care? Does he even notice? But his soul does. And that soul, once so comforted by her constant presence, starts to stir in her absence. Energetically, letting go isn't about shutting a door. It's about reclaiming power. It's about the feminine realizing she was never meant to carry both ends of the connection. And when she stops doing so, the masculine is faced with something he's been able to avoid for a long time: himself. No more running from the echo of her voice, because it's no longer chasing him. No more soft cushion of her love holding space for him to awaken on his own terms. This is the moment when his awareness starts to shift. And sometimes this shift triggers anger, confusion, or resistance. He might lash out energetically. He might go deeper into distraction, or he might pretend it doesn't matter. But the truth is, it does. Her letting go doesn't make her disappear. It makes her stronger. It transforms her love into something sovereign, untouchable, magnetic in a new way. And in that strength, he's no longer just running from her. He's running from himself. Letting go doesn't sever the bond. It amplifies it. It calls it into divine truth. And because the connection was never built on physical closeness, the energetic vacuum left behind is impossible for him to ignore. So yes, he feels it deeply, sometimes painfully, but also it's the very thing that starts to awaken him. Because love that no longer begs is the love that invites growth. Because presence that no longer chases creates the space for the masculine to finally rise. Letting go was never about giving up. It was always the path to real love. In the twin flame journey, the feminine carries a deep longing, not just for the union itself, but for the harmony, the alignment, the soul-level connection she knows is possible. And when that doesn't happen in the way or timing she hoped, her heart breaks, but also begins to awaken. Because the truth is, control and unconditional love can't exist in the same space. For so long, she thought her holding on was love. Her efforts, her waiting, her healing, all sacred, and they were. But at some point, that sacred devotion crosses an invisible line and becomes control. Not out of malice, out of pain, out of fear, out of the unbearable ache of waiting for someone to meet her in the same depth she's willing to go. Have you felt it? That moment where your love started to feel heavy instead of free. Control can look like obsessing over signs, overthinking every silence, creating imaginary timelines, and getting lost in what should be. But love, true love, asks for surrender. It asks for spaciousness, for truth, for softness, for choice. And when the feminine finally releases the need to control the journey, something incredible happens. She births a new kind of love. A love that doesn't chase, but still remains. A love that holds space, not out of lack, but out of wholeness. A love that no longer tries to make union happen, but trusts that union already exists in the realm of the soul. This is the love that calls in the masculine in a new way, not through pressure, not through desperation, but through magnetism. Because when she stops gripping the steering wheel of the journey, the energy flows again. What was blocked now opens. What was stagnant begins to breathe. The feminine begins to rise, not above him, but into herself. And that rise sends waves through the connection. He feels her peace. He feels her clarity. He feels that she's no longer holding space for a version of him that isn't showing up. And that shift is powerful. It's not a game. It's not manipulation. It's truth. And truth always activates. Releasing control isn't abandoning the connection. It's trusting the soul contract more than the ego plan. It's choosing love that doesn't grip, because love that flows is the only love that frees. And in that freedom, the divine union becomes possible. It may not come the way she imagined. It may not happen in the timing she wanted, but it will come in alignment with the truth she finally embraced. That true love begins when control ends, and when she loves without needing, she becomes a mirror to the kind of love that transforms him too. The moment the feminine stops waiting for the masculine is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a deeper chapter, one that doesn't revolve around what the other is doing, but around what is finally being remembered within her own soul. Inner union is not a concept. It's a lived experience, and it's the next step for anyone walking the twin flame path with awareness. So what does this really mean? It means turning inward, not as an escape, but as a sacred return. For so long, the feminine has given her energy outward, to healing the connection, to holding emotional space, to being ready for union. But now, something shifts. She starts pouring that energy into herself, not from ego, from truth. Inner union begins the moment she chooses to become everything she was looking for in the other. She becomes her own safety, her own validation, her own witness. She stops waiting to be seen and begins seeing herself fully. And in that deep self-recognition, the fragmented pieces of her own soul begin to return. The places she left behind while loving someone else start coming home. Have you felt it, that quiet knowing that you are not chasing anymore? Not because you've given up, but because you've finally arrived. This is not loneliness. This is sovereignty, and it's magnetic. When inner union takes root, she no longer fears time, distance, or silence, because nothing external can separate her from the love she already holds within. She no longer needs signs to feel guided. Her body becomes the compass. Her intuition becomes the voice. Her presence becomes the medicine. And what's most powerful, inner union doesn't push the masculine away. It calls him in, not through force, but through frequency. He feels the shift, not in words, in energy. She is no longer seeking him to complete her, but to meet her, soul to soul, without expectation. That's when the dynamic changes. That's when both begin to rise, not in parallel paths of longing, but in spiral journeys of alignment. Inner union is not the absence of desire, it's the purification of desire. She still wants love deeply, but now it's not love from a wounded place, it's love from a healed one. She no longer wants someone to save her. She wants someone who has also saved themselves. She no longer needs to be chosen. She's already chosen herself. And in that choice, everything begins to shift. So if you're in this moment, if you've stopped chasing, if you've turned inward, if you're holding yourself with more devotion than ever before, know this, you're not lost. You're becoming the embodiment of everything you once thought you needed from someone else. And this is the gateway to divine union, not just with your counterpart, but with your highest self. That's the real next step. If you've made it this far, then something inside you is already shifting. You're not just watching a video, you're remembering who you are. The path of the twin flames isn't about waiting. It's not about fixing. It's not about chasing. It's about becoming. And you're becoming the version of you that your soul has been guiding you toward all along. So breathe, let go, come back to you. The union you're seeking, it's already unfolding through every choice you make. To love yourself more deeply, more truly, and more unapologetically. And when the time is right, what's yours will find you. Until then, trust the journey, honor your energy, and walk as the love you came here to anchor. And if this message touched something in you, share it in the comments. Tell us, what part of you is rising now that you've stopped waiting? We're in this together. You are never alone.